Here we are in another season of Marvel Snap. This video was delayed, but that's okay because now we have the blog post, we have the data mine that changes a bunch of things. But let's talk about the April What If season and how I plan on spending my keys. Before we get into the video, it would be wrong of me to not say thank you to everyone. Yesterday on April 1st was my daughter's birthday. She turned 1. It was awesome. That weekend before, we celebrated her birthday with friends and family. And it was amazing that I was able to achieve the goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers before then because of people like you who watched the video and subscribed. Genuinely couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. It means a lot. There's a lot happening in my life outside of making YouTube videos that is quite draining right now, kind of depressing. And so coming to make videos is one of the things that gives me a lot of enjoyment. And so thank you for making it enjoyable by being an incredible audience of people. It was at the birthday party that was this last Saturday. Multiple friends and family came up to me and congratulated me on achieving my goal. So thank you for being the people to help me achieve it. So I guess we got to set a new goal, 5,000 subscribers for 2025. I don't know. Is that a stretch? Probably. But let's talk about Captain Carter, the other cards coming out this season, how I plan on spending my keys for potentially the last time as we, in the next May season, we may get snap packs that may happen in June. So we won't know if this is the last keys decision video until we know it's the last keys decision video after the fact. And then we're going to have to come up with like a snap packs something. We'll have to come up with another name. But let's talk about the cards, how I plan on spending my resources this season. So starting with the Season Pass card, Captain Carter as a 4/3 ongoing. Add this card's power to your back row cards here. Can't add to itself. I'm particularly excited for this card. I will mention that each of these cards I will be rating at the end of the video, in addition to the other details I'll have about the season. But Captain Carter is a card that I think is going to be really exciting. I don't think it's going to be an auto-include index the way that Galacta was. To me, this card reminds me a little bit more of Symbiote Spider-Man, where when people found a place for that deck, it really, really fit. Obviously, it had its automatic synergies and things like Bounce, and then that Thena Havoc deck that is still around. But then there were other places where people were really creatively fitting in Agent Venom, and every single one of them got insane value. I think Captain Carter's obvious inclusion is an ongoing deck of any kind. It could be a Tribunal ongoing deck. It could be a Doom 2099 deck. It could be a Spectrum ongoing deck. So you have those automatic inclusions, but then I think there's going to be other cool places where you can insert Captain Carter that will get a lot of value. I think, like, if you just play Captain Carter as a 4/3 and you play it in the front row, it's a 4/9. Which is pretty good value, and then all the things that you can do with ongoing and all the other ways that you can buff up Captain Carter to get even more benefit from her, I think are quite interesting. It's a lot of fun. I think it's a cool card. I also think the placement and needing to think about placement and having this in the front row is the exact type of gameplay I like in Marvel Snap. Like, that's what I enjoy about the card in Marvel Snap, and cards in Marvel Snap is when I have to think and be a little bit more strategic. Like, this is right up my alley. Can't wait to play with this card. I actually already have been, because this video is coming out late, and I think it's phenomenal. So really, really enjoying this card. But let's get into the Spotlight caches with the very first card coming out the same time as Captain Carter on April 1st, and that is Goliath ongoing, +1 power for each other ongoing card you have in play. Really, really cool card. I think an automatic connection to Captain Carter and going to go well in all those ongoing shells that Captain Carter will. I think it's a great inclusion to the ongoing archetype, a great card. I think it's great. We're going to see the same thing in Move for more of these archetypes to have like their Morbius card, right? Their 2 power, similar power, or 2 cost, similar cost card that just scales when playing cards that match that archetype. I think Goliath could be pretty cool. The spotlights we have for Goliath include Goliath, obviously, Gwenpool, and Cersei. Pretty good cards. So I will rate these spotlights each week as we go through them, and then I'll rate the individual new cards at the end of the video. So sticking with the theme of having a rating instead of stars, but one fitting with the season because it is the what if season, we have question marks. So out of 5 question marks, I'm giving this one 4. 1, I think Goliath is going to be a really, really strong card. I'm excited about him. Gwenpool is also an extremely strong card. This is also only the second variant we're getting for Gwenpool. The only other variant we had was the Season Pass variant. Gwenpool is also a great card, like really specific and pretty irreplaceable when you want to play Gwenpool. Galacta can fill a similar role, but they also play different roles of themselves, and you can have them in the same deck. Gwenpool, I think, is a card that you want to have in your collection if you don't. Cersei, I'm also putting the same way. Like, Goliath is doing a lot to make this week as high rated as it is. Gwenpool is helping out a lot. Cersei isn't doing a lot to lift it. However, she also isn't taking it down. While I don't think she's meta relevant in any particular way, if you want to play a deck that includes Cersei, she's impossible to replace. You can't you can't do Cersei things without Cersei, if that makes sense. Where you can kind of replace a Gwenpool with a Nakia or a Galacta. You can kind of replace a Goliath with like a Dazzler or Ant-Man. Not quite, but like if you get what I'm saying. Where Cersei is like, well, you can play Carnage, maybe. Depends on what you're trying to Cersei. So I think I don't have Cersei. I'm particularly excited for this week. I may try and roll for this Goliath variant. I think it's pretty cool. But we will see. I'm excited to have Cersei in my collection finally. So I think it's a pretty strong week. Moving on to the next week of April 8th, Kahori as a 4/6. On reveal, each card in your hand gives one of your cards in play +1 power. And I had to watch the trailer. Is it called the trailer? The developer update video. I had to watch it like 3 times to understand how this card works, because I wasn't sure if it was going to function the way the Bullseye does. So if you don't know, the way the Bullseye does, let's say your opponent has a handful of Swarms and Scorn, right? So they have 7 cards that they've discarded, but you only have 4 cards that are revealed on the board. Even though Bullseye discarded 7 cards, it will only afflict negative power 4 times because you have 4 cards. It won't pick a second card to afflict negative power again as well. So I wasn't sure if Kahori is going to function the same way. Let's say you have a handful of 6 cards, but you only have 3 cards on the board. Is that 6 shared? Like, does each card get 2 buffs, or does each card just get 1, and those remaining 3 buffs are just lost? I think it's functioning that if you have a card in hand, you're going to get a buff for that card. The interesting thing that I realize is that I don't think it's shared evenly. As an example, there was one section of the video where they had a hand of 6 cards, and they had 2 cards revealed. Each card got 3 additional power, evenly shared. Where there was another video where they had like 4, 5, maybe 6 cards revealed, and they had a handful of cards, 7 cards. And it wasn't dispersed evenly. Like, one card got nothing, where another card got like 2 or 3 buffs. So I think it's a particularly interesting card. I swing back and forth between being extremely interested in Kahori and thinking it's a week that I'm going to skip. But after the trailer, I think Kahori is going to be an incredible addition. My favorite archetype is the Victoria hand generation archetype, and it was a sad moment the other day when I had to go and delete the deck, my Victoria hand deck, to make space for more Captain Carter decks and ongoing decks that I was going to try to make videos about, because that Victoria hand was just, the deck wasn't doing enough to be competitive, and so it was like time for it to be moved on from, which was quite sad. And sometimes those archetypes just need like one additional card to get them there with power. I think Kahori might be that. I'm actually pretty excited about this card. So the Spotlight week for Kahori comes with Cull Obsidian and Hydra Bob. And so from a question mark rating, I'm actually only giving this 3. I think Kahori is extremely interesting and going to be very unique. Cull Obsidian and Hydra Bob are also very unique cards and kind of like desirable cards. I think Hydra Bob in particular, when he was 1/5, people were really hungry for. They're still really good cards, and if you have them, you're going to get value out of them. But where like Cersei is irreplaceable and Gwenpool is kind of replaceable, but also kind of not. Here's what I'll say. If you don't have Cull Obsidian and you're looking to play a deck with him, you could play Crossbones. No, it's not the same thing, and it's going to be harder to play Crossbones than it might be with Cull Obsidian. Like, Cull Obsidian fits in a Thanos deck particularly well, fits in a Zoo deck particularly well. Hydra Bob, if you want to play Hydra Bob, you could play an Ant-Man, you could play a Titania, you could play a Martyr, you could play a Silver Sable. Like, there's other ways to get value in the 1-drop space and the 4-drop space for 10 power. So these cards aren't irreplaceable. However, they are good cards, and what they do is unique enough that they are worth having in your collection. I don't have any of them. I'm going to be rolling all 3 cards this week. I'm pretty excited. But overall, I think it is, like, if you're trying to save your resources, again, it depends on your collection level, and what cards you are missing really makes this comment challenging. But I think generally, if I were trying to save my resources and I was trying to decide what cards am I okay skipping, Cull Obsidian and Hydra Bob are actually cards that I would probably consider skipping over something like a Cersei or a Gwenpool. So that's why it's a lower rating. Moving on to the next card of Infinity Ultron, coming out on April 15th. He's a 5/6. On reveal, add 2 of Ultron stones to your hand. If this is the first time you're seeing Infinity Ultron and you haven't watched other videos like this, the clarification, it's not like Thanos, it's not like Agamotto where the stones are shuffled into your deck. You have to play Ultron, and Ultron's on reveal is to give you 2 stones. So if you play Ultron on 6, you are not going to be able to play the stones without a magic. So what do these stones do? I'm not going to include the pictures of them because there's a lot of them. But the Power Stone, they're all 3-cost cards. They have different power levels. I think for the sake of this conversation is a little irrelevant, but they're all 3 cost, which is important. So the Power Stone on reveal, double Infinity Ultron's power. The Reality Stone on reveal, add a drone here and set its power equal to Infinity Ultron's. So doubling Infinity Ultron's power and then adding a drone, big deal, right? You get 2 12-powered cards. The Time Stone on reveal, put a card from your hand here. I think that could be pretty big. Space Stone on reveal, move the lowest power enemy card here to the location of Infinity Ultron. That could be good as well. Help you win that second location where you maybe more confidently invest in Infinity Ultron's location, and then you use this move option to win that second location. Soul Stone on reveal, for each of your full locations, give one of your cards there +2 power. Doesn't feel quite strong. And then Mind Stone ongoing, your on reveal abilities here happen twice. So obviously Mind Stone, and with the Power Stone, you're going to get a 24 powered Ultron, which is sweet. The cool thing about the Mind Stone is it's not restricted to what is the word I'm searching for? It's not restricted to the stones, right? It's any on reveal. So let's say you ramp Ultron out early with a wave, you play him on 4 or something. So then on 5, you play the Mind Stone and Psylocke as an example, right? So that Psylocke's on reveal ability will still double proc because of the Mind Stone, which is cool. So I'll save my rating for Ultron here in a little bit. I think I'm a little bit lower on him than other people are. That's important for the rating we're going to get with the spotlights. But he comes with Cannonball and Pixie, 2 really sweet variants for both of those cards. I think the Cannonball and Pixie variants are incredible. Overall, I'm giving this week a 3. Infinity Ultron is really, really interesting, but I'm quite low on him from a competitive standpoint. From a fun standpoint, he's much higher. We'll get to my rating of him at the end of the video. But Cannonball is extremely unique. He's almost like a better Shang or a more versatile Shang. And Pixie is not quite good. When the OTA came out, I was 100 tokens away from getting Pixie, who I had pinned in my shop. He's the type of card that I'm really interested in. I love Agent Venom decks, so I thought Pixie would be a fun inclusion in that. The OTA came out. I got 100 tokens from my collector's reserves, and I thought, you know what? Let me spend on Pixie. I know she's coming out in the spotlights, but I'll make a video on her. I kind of like this variant anyway. It has not gone well. So if Pixie pops off for me, maybe my opinion of this week will increase. But right now, Cannonball is doing the heaviest listing here. Other than that, there's a little bit of a landmine week. And even though Infinity Ultron is going to be super cool, if you're really, really resource tight from like I'm trying to get the most competitive card and get the most value, he actually might be a skip. But I'll save my rating for him in a little bit. And then we move on to Strange Supreme. I almost said Sorcerer Supreme. On April 22nd, 2/2. And his ability gains +2 power from merging. So if you play Hulkbuster, Agony, Symbiote Spider-Man, or Spider from Penny Parker and merge with him, he will gain the 3 power from Hulkbuster or from Penny Parker's Spider, and then +2 power from his merging text. So if you played Hulkbuster on him, he'd go to a 2/5 and then gain 2 power from himself on top of that and go to a 2/7, which is pretty crazy. End of turn, he will merge with one of your created cards as well. A cool thing about the developer update video is that it is confirmed that it is from any location. I thought the created cards had to be in his location, so you can get a lot of value from a Squirrel Girl, from a Shauna, from a Mysterio, because he will pull those creations from any location. I'm really curious what happens if you Arnim Zola him. Does he eat himself? How does that work? That'll be interesting to test out. But a cool card that I'll save my rating on him. But super cool card, I think. So moving on to his Spotlight Week, he comes with Speed and US Agent, and all 3 of these variants are absolutely incredible. It may be a week where I lose all my keys because I am giving this a 5 question mark rating. I think Strange Supreme is incredibly valuable. I think he's going to be an incredibly cool card. Can't wait to play Strange Supreme. And Speed and US Agent, I think, are just value cards that every time I play one of these cards in the decks that I want them in, I'm getting incredible value from them. In ongoing in particular, I know this week is a lot later, like it's 3 weeks into the season, and so people could be really moved on from ongoing with Captain Carter and Goliath, but Speed is incredible in ongoing decks. I also know that a lot of people were excited about getting Wiccan last season. If you got Wiccan and you don't have Speed, you should pick up Speed because Speed should go in every single Wiccan deck. One, they're brothers, so it makes sense lore-wise, but also just from like value in your deck. Speed is an automatic inclusion 3 cost that makes so much sense in every single Wiccan deck. US Agent is also incredibly specific in his application while very valuable. Now, Ajax is a particularly strong archetype that has a pretty good job at holding its place in the meta. However, you need the specific pieces to get that deck that I feel a lot of people are missing. As we look at the data mines that come out for May, the next season after this, Ajax is in one of those spotlights. So if you, or however it's going to change with packs, right? Ajax will be available to pick up. So if you are thinking about getting Ajax, this might be a good time to target US Agent as well, because they are particularly important to go together. Overall, really strong week. I highly recommend that people get Speed. Great card, one of my favorites. And then we get the last week of the season. This is a longer week, so we get a longer month, so we get 5 cards with Hydra Stomper, the opposite side of Captain Carter Story, a 3/2 card ongoing, +1 power for each time one of your cards moved this game. Again, a card that the more I've thought about, the higher I get on the card. Similar to what I said about Goliath, it's like that Morbius effect for the move archetype. The challenging thing is that while this card can be particularly powerful, it is in the move archetype that kind of struggles from time to time. However, I think that you put him in like the not straightforward move deck that you're thinking about. Put him in there with Sam Wilson. Put him in there with Silk, with Nightcrawler, with Jeff, with Rocket Raccoon and Groot, with Nocturne, with Vision, right? Those types of cards. Heimdall. Like, you're just moving cards all over the place, and you're getting a Hydra Stomper pretty high because the text here changed, which I think is important. It used to be that he'd gain +1 power for each card of yours that moved. So if you moved the shield twice, he would only get +1 power because it was one card. However, if you move the shield twice, he gets +2 power because the shield has moved twice. So Silk bouncing around the board could generate a lot of power for Hydra Stomper. I think is going to be a pretty cool card. We look into his Spotlight week, and he comes with Aranya and Madam Web. I think from a synergistic standpoint, this is a phenomenal week. Like, if you're interested in move and you're missing these cards, what a great week to roll and get any one of these 3 cards, even though I think the Madam Web and Aranya variants are quite bad. It's a really, really synergistic week. Reminds me of the last week we had from this past season with Khonshu, Scorn, and Corvus Glaive. Really valuable week from synergistic deck building. Like, if you again, depending on your collection level and what cards you're going after, if you're not interested, well, interested is the wrong word. If you're like trying to decide, do I just target cards that I really, really want, or do I target cards that will complete decks for me, complete archetypes? This is one of those weeks that you'd get a lot of value out of your keys. So what am I giving it, though? 4 out of 5 question marks. While I think these cards are incredibly value, move has really kind of trickled down the strength. Sadly, the nerf to Dagger really hurt. Move bounce, and then move just in general always kind of struggles. So Madam Web and Aranya are kind of like C tier to B tier cards. However, if you want the move package, they're incredibly valuable. So it is, and I like them. I think they're pretty impactful cards, and I like playing move and move bounce. So I'm excited for this week. Although I recognize that it's not the strongest, and if you're trying to save your resources for just like the strongest cards, this is a week that is a little bit lower. And then we have High Voltage, which is important to talk about, coming back April 17th to 24th. It is confirmed that it is High Voltage. This is going to be a lot of fun. And in High Voltage, we will be able to get Dum Dum Duggan. Everybody's calling him Dum Dum Dugan. It looks like Duggan to me, but I'm dyslexic, so don't trust me in phonetically reading anything. Anyway, but his ability as a 2/3 ongoing, your front row cards here have +1 power, and it can't add to itself. Interesting card. I'll say my rating for him, but cool. Like, cool that we get another card to go in the ongoing archetype. Something I forgot to mention with Goliath is that ongoing cards, particularly the Spectrum ongoing deck, has just wanted low-cost ongoing cards. And while Dazzler doesn't particularly make sense in that archetype unless you're going the Doom 2099 version, people were playing Armors. People were playing Colossus, which I have a Spectrum ongoing deck that I played the Sam Wilson season when he came out, and I got incredible value out of Colossus. You can get into really, really tricky locations with Colossus, and he can win you games. However, he's not particularly strong, and so Goliath and now Dum Dum Duggan can be a good addition to those archetypes. So other things to know about the location, and then we'll get into my final card ratings. The new locations we have, Sakaar Grand Prix. After turn 4, the winner here gets +4 max energy. So kind of like Castle Blackstone and a little bit like the Space Bridge. What's it called? Not the Rainbow Bridge. What is it called? The one where you draw cards after turn 4, who's ever winning. Really interesting that it's just +1 max energy. It's not dependent each turn like Castle Blackstone is, and you have to be winning the location. I think it's pretty cool. Sanctum Infinium, I don't know why we're getting more discard locations, but discard a card, and then fill this to return it with +5 power. Imagine return it to your hand. I think that that's pretty interesting, kind of cool. The thing that's interesting is that the locations usually synergize with the cards that are being released, and I don't think Sakaar Grand Prix or Sanctum Infinitum kind of synergize with any of the cards that are coming out. There are cool locations. I think Sakaar Grand Prix, in addition, like in particular, is an incredibly fun location. However, I don't know how they synergize with the new cards, so it'll be interesting to see as these locations come out. Everything else to know, this is Negasonic Teenage Warhead variant is our Conquest variant. I think it's one of the best we've had in a while. We have the Infinity card back. If you reach Infinite, the non-Infinite version that you get in the Season Pass is just Silver. And then we have this Uatu card back, which I'm extremely excited about. It's going to be Favorite, Equipped to All. It might replace my Hawkeye Kate Bishop card back, which has been my favorite for the longest time. I'm also excited to have an Uatu variant, even though it's pretty bad. Like, one of my favorite cards. I just want a variant for him finally. Other things to know, Twitch drops we do, because this video is being delayed, we have the blog post to let us know. They're happening from April 21st to 24th. During High Voltage, they're trying something new where as you watch 6 hours, you earn 750 volts. So that can help you get Dum Dum Duggan even faster. So watch out for Twitch drops. Maybe one day I'll participate in Twitch drops when I go live. I will not be, but look forward to doing that eventually one day. And then we have here the Datamine cards coming out for May. We also have Datamine cards for June, but I'm going to potentially make another video on that. But I think it's important to look over these cards as you see you're saving these keys. They are quite interesting. Go watch another video or one that I'm going to make where people talk about these cards and their abilities in particular. But those cards are super, super unique. New cards aside, I think it's worth looking at the cards that are also coming out to see how, are there things that are going to synergize? Are there things that I'm like, Scream is a big card. If you don't have Scream, you want to be saving your keys for that, even though it is pretty much a month and a half away. 2 months away, basically. Like I mentioned, Ajax with U.S. Agent being particularly synergistic. Same thing with Silver Sable, right? So you have these options. I think is important, worth looking at these just as you work on trying to save your resources. So now, as we finish up here, we will get into my ratings of each card and what I plan to do. Captain Carter, I'm going to purchase Season Pass. I already did. I do every season. I give her 4 out of 5 question marks. I think her strength is going to be very valuable. However, application a little bit more niche than the other Season Pass. Like I mentioned, very, very similar to something like an Agent Venom for me. I'm very excited for this card. It matches the way I like to play Snap of being very strategic in how my cards are placed. Quite excited for it. Goliath, I plan on spending my keys. Like I mentioned, I might roll that whole week to get the variant. I think he's a 5 question mark card. Like, he's particularly strong, ongoing, deserves to be a strong archetype, even though it's heavily countered. Depending on the week and depending on the pocket meta that you are in, and also just in the meta of the Ways of Shaping, sometimes ongoing can just really feast, and Goliath is going to love that. Great card. I think one of the strongest of the whole season. Kahori, I'm planning on spending my keys. She is a 4 out of 5 question mark card for me, particularly maybe even a 5, but I was much lower on her and was planning on skipping this week. Just thought, I'm not quite interested in that. And then my Victoria hand deck went away, and I think Kahori might be the piece needed to bring it back. Cannot wait for this card. I think while this is one that I think is like the strongest, this is probably the card that I'm most excited for. The one that I'm going to have the most fun with is Kahori. Infinity Ultron, I'll probably spend tokens on just because I don't have a lot of keys, unless Pixie pops off for me. I really, really like the Pixie variant, but Ultron is a much lower card for me. I'm going to spend tokens on him. I'm going to get him, make a video about him. He's cool. He's fun. I think he'll make good content. I think people are going to be interested in the card, but if you're interested in spending your cards on him, like if you're interested in spending your keys on the best cards, and you're wondering if an Infinity Ultron is going to be that, wait. Don't FOMO roll for him. I don't think he's going to be that strong. And the reason why he's only 2 out of 5 question marks is because you play him on 5. What's your game plan on 6? You're just going to play those 2 stones? Well, how are you going to plan your turns up to turn 5 and 6? Like, what if you get the stone that moves a card into Infinity Ultron's location, and you then also get the stone that says you get +1 power to a card for each location that's full, but you don't have a single location full. And then that location that Infinity Ultron in isn't particularly tall, so you don't want to play a stone there to move a card there. You got to know what you're going to get, and you don't know what you're going to get. And so there's a lot of guessing and a lot of up in the air that makes the deck, and this card in particular, not very strong. And I think quite challenging to play. Like, do you even run 6 drops in this deck? Do you run them as a backup if the stones you don't get are good? Right? It's tough. I don't think he's going to be great, but it will be fun. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just don't think he's going to be that strong. And then Strange Supreme, I'm spending my keys. I'm probably going to spend all of them. I can't wait to get that variant. MJ at Res Snapper, really underrated channel. You should go subscribe to that. But he talks about data mined cards, and he talks about planning your keys and resources and what cards are coming up. Really valuable videos that he makes. But he has been particularly high on Strange Supreme, and I think that MJ, like, we've never talked, but MJ and I think, like the same type of decks. Like, we both really like Penny Parker. We both like Scarlet Spider. We both like merge-based decks. He calls a Space Saver deck or Savage Spider deck. I think we like the same type of decks. And when he's talked about Strange Supreme and how excited he is, I was like, really? Like, I feel like this is the first time I disagree with MJ. And I was like kind of disappointed in myself that I didn't see what MJ was seeing. I now see it. I am extremely excited for this card. Can't wait. I think it's 5 out of 5 question marks. Just insane value for a 2-drop. Also really cool type of decks that he's going to go in. Hydra Stomper, probably spending my keys on as well just because I don't have a lot of tokens and I want to get the card. But we'll see how many keys I have having at the end of the season and what is happening with snap packs. But overall, I give him a 3 out of 5 rating. Again, I think he can get particularly strong in that, like, move cards, but it's not a move deck package. He could get particularly high, but move is just a tough archetype to exist within right now in the meta, sadly. And then Dum Dum Duggan, I'm just going to grind him out and get him. He's a 2 question mark card. Like, he's Goliath at home, and if that makes sense. He's not that good. What I will say from a design standpoint, he's okay. Like, you'd want to play him in an ongoing deck over a Colossus, probably. Cool card. What I think is really, really interesting is that from a design standpoint, you would think that they, like, Captain Carter is a 4-cost card and can only add power to the back row. Dum Dum Duggan is a 2-cost card and can only add power to the front row. You would think from, like, an easiness standpoint, you would want those the other way around because Dum Dum Duggan you can play earlier because he's 2-cost, so it makes sense for him to add to the back row. Or Captain Carter, you can play her later as a 4-cost, so you can have her add to the front row. But they switch it, and I think that is a really, really intentional and really, really smart game design because it requires you to play your cards a specific way, which adds to the fun of Marvel Snap, also adds to the cards not being totally broken. Also, like, I just think it's phenomenal game design from Second Dinner, and I really appreciate them for making really great cards that I'm excited to play with. So that is how I'm spending my keys for the April 2025 season, this What If season. Thanks for waiting for this delayed video. I made one earlier before the data mine happened, before we got the developer update, and it was an hour long. I had a lot more to say, but I'm going to save that and give you the much shorter version because it's late in the season and your time is valuable. And I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you making it to the end of the video. I appreciate you being a subscriber. If you've made it this far and you aren't subscribed, definitely subscribe because there's a video with my wife rating Marvel Snap cards. She's not going to rate new ones, but she's going to rate old ones and see how good she can do with that. And then we're going to play a game in Friendly Battle Conquest. She gets to use my deck, my card collection, and go against a new account that's like collection level 23. She gets to play against to see if she can win. It's going to be a lot of fun, in addition to some great decks about Captain Carter, Goliath, and all the other cards coming out this season. Very excited for that. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. It really means a lot. And have fun playing Marvel Snap.